Hello and welcome back to Sheffield Banjo Lessons. Now you have your 3 rolls in your hands, we're going to look at getting some chords for those as well. We're going to be looking at the G chord, the C chord and the D7 chord. We're going to split the lesson down, so as usual, split into chapters, check out anything that you need again. It's going to be easy to find, hit save in case you need to see it again. So the first thing we're going to look at is what's the difference between a note and a chord. We are then going to look at the G chord, the C chord, the D7 chord, and at the end of the lesson I'm going to show you an easier version of a C chord that will work for you depending on if the full C chord is going to be a bit tricky for you, and it lets you keep playing whilst you're working on that. So stick it out and we'll get to that at the end. Okay, let's go. So what's the difference between a note and a chord? Well, a note is one single musical sound. Now, picture yourself a piano and they've got the white keys, the black keys, and all you're going to do is just press one of those, and that's going to give you a note. So, what's a chord? A chord is going to be 2 or more of those pressed at the same time, so it's multiple notes played at the same time. So again, the piano, it's going to be pressing at least 2 keys, or another way to kind of picture it is think of a guitar that's been strummed. They're playing a chord, they're playing multiple strings, multiple notes all at the same time. What does that mean on banjo then? Well, an individual note for us is going to be any string on its own that is picked. And it doesn't matter if it's open or whether it's fretted. It's just going to be an individually picked string. All of those were just individual notes. So when we want to play a chord, we're going to be playing 2 or more at the same time. Simply gives us a chord. Now the question is, well, don't we use rolls and we kind of play one note after another? So where do the chords come into it then? Well, you're absolutely right. When we're playing the rolls, they are generally just one note after another. But quite often we're going to shape the chord in our hand, and then all the sounds that are going over each other, all the individual notes, are going to be heard at the same time and create this chord. So let's have a look at these 3 chords. So we saw in one of the very early lessons that our banjo is tuned to an open G. So what that means is if we strum all of our strings, we actually get your first chord, which is a G. So there's a freebie for you if you've tuned the banjo up. That is an open G chord. So the G chord is made up of those 3 notes. It's the G, the D, and the B. So let's have a look at the C chord now. Now the C chord is going to be a little bit tricky if you're doing the full version and you've never played a stringed instrument before. But let's see how you fret that. So what I'm going to do is use my ring finger on the 2nd fret of string number 1. I'm going to use my index finger on the 1st fret of string number 2. And as you can see, what I'm going to do is fret them, press them down close to the little metal sort of actual fret divider, but just behind. You want to be pressing them down. It'll hurt a little bit until you get used to it, but then over time it will ease. And what you want to be doing is pressing those down and not letting the pad of your finger touch anything else. Now you can play these 3 notes on their own and see if you've got that right. And what you're listening out for is anything that would sound more like this. Where you're in the wrong position, you're either not pressing down hard enough or you've got a bit of your finger catching the other. If you look at my shape here, it's just behind the metal fret on each of these, okay? That's where you want to be. Now, the thing that's going to be tricky here as well is you're now going to need to use your middle finger to reach up to string number 4 on the 2nd fret. So the way I do this with my hand shape is I'm going to have a cradle. I'm going to place the banjo into this part of my hand and it's going to form a cradle. It's a bit like a ball joint, so I can move around wherever I need, and that's going to allow my fingers to reach over where they need to. You'll have a different shaped hand, but this is what I find works for me. So I'm going to put that 2-finger C on. As you can see, hopefully, if I lift my hand out of the way, there's a bit of like a triangle of airspace that's going to help me out. And I've got those 2 fingers pressing down, and I'm going to reach over with my middle finger, and it's going to skip string 3, be on the 2nd fret of string number 4. Now, the thing that will help you is if you see that knuckle, the knuckle is pointing towards my face and it is standing up away from the actual fretboard. If it flattens, take a look for anything like that when you play, because that is going to absolutely kill your tone and it'll cover the strings and it'll be really tricky for you. So you want to be bringing that knuckle up so that it's on point and that fingernail is looking at your face. And then give that a play down the strings, see if you've got it clean. This is the trickiest chord you're going to learn when you're starting banjo, and I think just the more time you can spend sort of trying to get that clean, the better. So one way you can practice this is take it off, put it on again, take it off, put it on again, that sort of thing. When you get the idea of where your fingers are wanting to go, what you can then do is strum. So we'll go. And you can count for that. So you can have a count of 4 and you'll be doing G, 2, 3, 4, C, 2, 3, 4, G, 2, 3, 4, C, 2, 3, 4. So let's now look at the D7 chord. The D7 chord's going to need 2 fingers to fret, and this is going to be our index and our middle. And the way it's going to work is we're going to need to be able to arch over strings so that we don't catch them. So you're going to need to play this really on the tip of each of your fingers and really look at getting these knuckles arched round. So I'm going to build this the same way as kind of the C chord, which is I've got my sort of cradle joint going around here, and what I'm going to do for my first fretted finger is I'm going to take my index finger, it's going to be the 1st fret of string number 2. Now, I'm also then going to need my middle finger for the 2nd fret of string number 3. So if I look at what I've got fretted on these 4 strings, I've got open on string 4, string 3 has got the 2nd fret, string 2 has got the 1st fret, and then it's open again on the D string, on string 1. So what I know is I'm going to have to then get these fingers arched out so that the pads don't touch the strings below. Same again, if you kind of look at my hand shape, I've got these knuckles that aren't flat, they're on point to try and give it that arch the best chance it possibly can to get over. And those knuckles are again pointing towards my face. So let's see if that's sounding for us. That's really nice and clean. So if you're finding it sounding a bit flatter like this, that means that we need to really get back onto these arches. So we're going to come round, we're going to reach up, reach over, get on our ballerina points at the end of our fingers. We're going to get those knuckles straight, and we're going to be pointing the fingernails towards our face. There we go. So if you think this chord sounds a little weird, well, it's not a major chord, which is the bright happy chords like you heard on the G and the C. This one is a D7. Now that gives us our bluesy sort of feel. And it's going to add a real nice bit of flavour to the songs that we're going to play. So same again for practicing this as it is the C chord, where I would suggest lifting it on and off, on, off, on and off and on and off. And when you get the idea of where that chord's going to be in your hand and you can hover and just press it down, I would then start looking at counting and strumming it. So strum on beat 1 and then count 2, 3, 4 and then play the chord, strum 2, 3, 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 3, 4, 2, 3, 4, 2, 3, 4. That's going to help build your timing with being able to get these chords down ready for when you need them, when you bring in that right hand in. But if you practice them just with strumming, it means you're really just focusing on the shapes before you start trying to take the left and the right hand together. So earlier on I said there is a simpler version of the C chord. So let's take a look at that now. Now this is going to be handy for you if you kind of struggle with the main shape of the C chord, and it's usually that middle finger that's not going to like clear the strings underneath and give you that dead sound. So make sure you do keep working on that though, because you're going to need that at some point, and it helps to just strengthen it and bring it along. But there is also a simpler C chord that we can do that helps us keep playing along, so we can still make sure we can back up others or play some banjo ourselves. So let's take a look at that. And what we're going to need to know now is, how is our banjo tuned? Can you remember that? Right, so we've got string 1 and string 4, and they are both tuned to a D. Now, earlier on we said that for a chord we need multiple notes, right? We need 2 or more notes. Now if we've got 2 of those already, we can get rid of 1 of those and still have the chord. What that means for the C chord then, if we put the shape back on, we've got that 2nd fret, then an open string, the 1st fret, and then the 2nd fret. Now if you look at string 1 and string 4, you're playing the 2nd fret on each of those. So to still make sure we've got a C chord, all we're going to need is just 1 of those. So let's take the tricky middle finger out of the way. And now we've got just the 1st and the 2nd fret on strings 1 and 2 covered. Now, you can use this. This is going to be a lot easier for you, but there's only certain rolls that it's going to work with. And it's going to work any time we don't need string 4. And being honest, this is a thoroughly acceptable chord that you're going to find in a lot of songs when you get to that point anyway. So don't be afraid to use it. Just remember, it has to be a roll that doesn't use string 4. And that can be your forward-backward roll. Or another way we can do it is the alternating thumb roll, but we just do the first 4 notes of that. With the easier C chord in your hand, that means you can carry on playing back up to others and playing with other musicians without having those bum notes in there. And like I say, make sure you do keep working on that full C chord though, because you are going to need it, and it'll pay you back every little bit that you can get it better. 1% better every time you get there, and I promise you will get there as well. Okay, well done. You now have your 3 rolls and your 3 chords. You're close to surviving 90% of a bluegrass jam. Okay, so what we'll do is put these all together, and in the next lesson we'll see how they create a composition or the backing to a tune as well. I will see you there.